begin the inaugural session, may I introduce Ms. Shefalika Panda, founder and CEO of BIPF. She is a distinguished leader in social impact and corporate social responsibility. She drives pioneering initiatives for sustainable community transformation, focusing on women's empowerment and recognizing the interconnectedness of various issues across segments. Apart from having led FICCI Young Leaders, she has served on the board of their Socio-Economic Development Council and Inclusive Governance Council. As convener of the G20 Empower Working Group on Mentorship, she has shaped global conversations on women's empowerment and intergenerational change. With a round of applause, Ms. Shefalika Panda to deliver the welcome address.
Mrs. Shobna Bhartia, distinguished speakers, and esteemed guests, a very good morning to you. On behalf of the Bansidhar and Neela Panda Foundation, I extend a warm welcome to Ideate 2025, a platform which seeks challenging assumptions, sparks dialogue, and inspires bold action. This year's theme, Margins to Mainstream, is focused on women's leadership and empowerment. It is not merely a convening, but a call to transformation. For too long now, the leadership potential of women has remained constrained, not because of aspiration or ability, but by systemic barriers that limit visibility, opportunity, and access. Globally, women comprise nearly half of the workforce, but yet, only about 10% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women. This statistic is not just a reflection on gender disparity, but it is an indicator of untapped potential, unheard voices, and also decisions which are made without the full extent and perspective that inclusivity needs. Alongside this inequity, we witness an extraordinary examples that come from the political, business arenas, and even from grassroots movements. Women are redefining leadership, and they're doing it with their own style of resilience, collaboration, empathy, and deep-rooted in community. Their journey reminds us that when women lead, it has a multiplier effect. So these stories must not remain the exception. For every woman who is empowered, and for every one of us who can stand and advocate for them here, let there be thousands who can have their voices heard, even if it's at the household level. And that must become a norm. At the Bansidhar and Neela Panda Foundation, we believe that leadership is not a privilege of a few, but it is the possibility for many. This conclave is a part of our ongoing efforts to bridge that distance between potential and opportunity. It is our conviction that women must not just find a place at the table, but they must be empowered to redesign the table itself. As our nation strides towards Viksit Bharat 2047, harnessing Nari Shakti is absolutely crucial. Our Prime Minister has emphasized that the path to a developed India is through women-led development. This represents a significant shift from viewing women solely as beneficiaries of development to now recognizing them as architects of change, decision makers, and leaders in their own spheres. Women-led development means enabling women to lead enterprises, design solutions, and drive policies. It is about investing in their agency as much as in their access. Today's conversations have been carefully curated to build upon a narrative of possibility, keeping both the urban and rural environment in mind. In the early years, it could be through education and awareness, in adolescence, through skill and mentorship, resulting in generations living in a world that looks different, better, and certainly more equitable. It is essential for us to expand the corridors of power and explore what gender inclusivity looks like. How leadership can and must be reimagined to reflect the realities of both remote and accessible geographies. It is about creating ecosystems that not only accommodate women, but actively empower them. It's about workplaces and communities where inclusion is not an add-on, but a cultural cornerstone. As stakeholders, we need to push society as a whole to go beyond words into the realm of action. We must seek strategies that accelerate gender-agnostic leadership across sectors, from dismantling cultural barriers to leveraging mentorship, from reshaping the workplace practices to strengthening policy frameworks. We must be aware that real progress requires not just vision, but also execution. Today, we will hear from women leaders who have walked this journey to become influencers. We will also hear from catalysts who help empower women. And their stories will remind us that visibility is not just about the spotlight, it's about agency and advocacy. As we begin this dialogue today, the real question is, can collective action from industry, government, communities, society create the conditions for an ecosystem where women not only rise but thrive? I stand here today deeply aware that this transformation, and a transformation of this scale, requires more than just policy. It requires conviction. It requires more than projects. It calls for partnerships. And more than opportunity, it requires action. So let us today commit to concrete steps for a future where inclusive leadership is a reality. Let us act and not just imagine. So thank you for joining us, and once again, a warm welcome to Ideate 2025.
For this welcome address and thought-provoking statement. It's a privilege to have with us Mrs. Shobna Bhartia, Chairperson and Editorial Director of HT Media Limited. Besides being the first woman to become the Chief Executive of a national newspaper, Mrs. Bhartia is a prominent statesperson who received the Padma Shri for excellence in journalism. She was nominated to the Rajya Sabha from 2006 to 12. She also served as a member of Parliamentary Committee on Energy, Women Empowerment and Human Resource Development. She is serving as member India Advisory Board at London School of Economics, a member of International Advisory Board at Oxford University, and is also the Pro-Chancellor of Birla Institute of Technology and Science, Pilani, and Chancellor of BIT School of Management. She has received many awards and recognitions, including the ABLF Sustainable Leadership Icon Award, Global Leadership Award by the US-India Business Council. With a round of applause, may we request Mrs. Shobna Bhartia to present the special address at Ideate Conclave 2025.
Uma Seth, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. I'd like to thank the Bansidhar and Ela Panda Foundation and FICCI for inviting me to speak on a subject close to my heart, empowering women to lead. I cannot help but stress the need to redefine leadership to achieve a vision for gender-inclusive power. It is important to understand what we mean by this and what we need to do to change the way it is understood today. Half the world's population is women, half of India's population is women. But around the world and in our own country, women do not have the agency to be equals in decision making. We are a nation of paradoxes. We worship goddesses, we celebrate women achievers, but all the while, millions of women are denied opportunities to realize their potential. From geopolitics to economics to the climate crisis, it is increasingly becoming clear that the prevailing order we know is fraying at the edges. What we need is a fair, equitable, progressive approach to addressing these challenges. I believe having more women in leadership positions and by extension, transiting to a gender-inclusive model of leadership could hold the key. Women bring unique qualities to any position they hold, including empathy, an innate sense of fairness, and are good as collaboration. As Margaret Thatcher famously said, in politics, if you want anything, ask a man. If you want anything done, ask a woman. We have examples of this all around us in amazing women presidents and prime ministers, in women CEOs, in women organizing themselves into cooperatives like Seva. We have inspiring examples from Indira Gandhi's political leadership to Indira Nui redefining corporate leadership globally, to countless women sarpanches in villages who have transformed local governance. To make leadership more gender inclusive, we first need to make society more so. As the late Sushma Swaraj was fond of saying, women's empowerment must be made a people's movement. Empowerment is not charity. It is about recognizing that women are not on the margins of society. They are the very heart of it. To move women from margin to mainstream, we need to redefine power, create inclusive cultures, dismantle structural barriers, and build a society rooted in empathy and respect. Women leaders tend to be amenable to collaboration, to finding practical ways to solve problems, and above all, to listen. We need multiple kinds of leadership to address the challenges we face today. Women are not exclusivist in their approach, they are more inclined to be inclusive. And as the great Maya Angelou said, each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. There can be no real argument against making society more gender inclusive. After all, no progressive society can countenance treating half its population as second-class citizens or as invisibilized. While there is a strong social necessity to give women their rightful place at the table, there is also a compelling economic rationale to do this, which I will come to in a bit. To get there, we have to make it possible for women to contribute to lead. Here, it is important to first understand the reality. For it is an unequal world, and gender imbalance starts early and spans almost every dimension. From literacy to nutrition to participation in the workforce, even something as mundane as the number of hours of sleep they get, women in India lag men. This disparity, not surprisingly, is reflected at work, even in occupations considered the preserve of women. And according to the database of India's top 500 listed companies, as Shefalika had also pointed out, less than 5% have a woman CEO or MD, and almost 300 do not have a woman in any senior managerial role. The last is especially worrying because it means that the 5% proportion is unlikely to change anytime soon. In corporate India, diversity initiatives are gaining momentum, but inclusion goes beyond the seat at the table. It means valuing different perspectives and ensuring that policies, mindsets, and daily practices reflect equity. I spoke about the economic rationale earlier. If we improve the labor participation of women in India, it could result in significant economic benefits. Women account for almost half of India's population, yet contribute to only 18% of India's GDP, according to the National Family Health Survey. There's a study by McKinsey that claims that taking women's labor force participation, which is currently at 35%, to the same level as men in India, around 77%, will boost the GDP by 30%. How do we get there? We need bold interventions, safe public transport, affordable childcare, equal pay for equal work, skilling programs tailored for women, and stronger enforcement of workplace protections. These are not women's issues, they are economic imperatives. Studies show that if India bridges its gender gap in labor participation, our GDP could grow by nearly $1 trillion. We need to champion the cause of making sure that women get equal rights to access, own and use resources. Women's economic empowerment holds the key to increased political and social leadership for them. However, let me be clear, empowerment cannot flourish without empathy. Women leaders often bring empathy into decision making because they understand the lived experience of balancing multiple roles: professional, familial, societal. When empathy becomes a core value in workplaces, schools and governments, respect naturally follows. We need more women in fields where they are underrepresented today. We have seen what they can achieve when given the chance. India's space program has been propelled by women scientists. A woman scientist led the fight against COVID in India. Mary Kom entered the boxing ring, a totally male-dominated sport, and excelled. But we must also normalize failure. Too often, women are held to impossibly high standards. Any stumble is always magnified. We need to create spaces where women can take risks, experiment, fail, and try again without judgment. And after all, progress comes as much from mistakes as from triumphs. It is necessary to develop and implement accountability mechanisms to protect women's rights and ensure that women's voices are amplified in all spaces of decision making. In India, we have seen the benefits of reservation in the government, judiciary and administration. The Women's Reservation Law will be implemented after delimitation, which means it could kick in as early as 2029. It is a radical step that should help. There's already reservation for women in panchayats, but currently women are woefully underrepresented in legislature and parliament, despite the fact that decisions taken in these august institutions affect all women. The question is not whether India can afford to empower women. The reality is India cannot afford not to. Women have also not got their fair share of representation in the judiciary. According to the latest Justice report, their proportion has touched 38% in the district judiciary, but less than 15% of High Court judges are women, and in the Supreme Court there's currently only one woman judge. In fact, it was Justice Chandrachud who said, "To treat women as children of a lesser god is to blink at the Constitution itself." Ours is a traditionally patriarchal society, which means women are hobbled by entrenched and subconscious biases against them. We need to create a culture that allows women to be treated as equals and allows them a fair share of opportunity that does away with biases. I have found that these often require a multidimensional approach, with legislation such as the one that prevents sex determination, against gender violence, against dowry harassment, against workplace inequities, against discrimination in inheritance. But this alone won't do. We need to increase awareness, education, and incentivize parents of girl children. The girl child must be seen as an asset and not a burden. If the data is any indication, reservation clearly can address some of the structural barriers. Similar interventions can help with other structural barriers. For instance, the focus on ensuring women have bank accounts and transferring money directly into these can help in terms of financial inclusion, as can the creation of women's self-help groups. When Ila Bhatt set up the Seva, which I mentioned earlier, she understood the power of collective bargaining for women. Today, her model is studied and emulated around the world. Social sector schemes such as specialized health insurance can help with other structural challenges. Finally, there's a leadership aspect that is often ignored. We need to highlight role models, celebrate their success, and importantly, come up with mechanisms that make it possible for young women from across the country to tap these role models as mentors and, if possible, sponsors. I believe every successful woman has to take it upon herself to mentor young women who want to follow the same path. I remember many years ago when I was getting ready for a leadership role